My country club is the club I use to knock out farm animals. I hear voices when I hold it.
Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I am Chad McCanna.
Took you a while to figure that one out, didn't you, Chad?
And this is National Public Radio.
Oh, could you imagine if we were financed by the taxpayers?
Ira Glass would be fired immediately.
Well, sure, yeah. You can't trust a man named Ira.
No, nor Glass. That's I think that's what the M. Night Shyamalan classic Unbreakable was all about, really. The follies of National Public Radio.
Oh, anyway, Chad, how are you doing?
I'm
how
doing
are your,
okay.
Yeah, how are your energy levels?
I'm currently running on adrenaline, so I could crash at any moment.
That's promising.
Good pod.
Oh, I hate when you say that. Ira Glass wouldn't say that.
No, it's actually a Carolla staple that I haven't listened to Adam Carolla in like 4 years, but I remember I always thought the good pod thing was at least worth ripping off.
You know, I'm sure I have nothing in common with Adam Carolla, so I don't know. I mean, like you.
But Hyle, you're such a gearhead.
Clearly, yeah. Well, I like Diddy Kong Racings, but I've got Kevin Callahan to fill that niche.
Jesus,
so.
when are we deigning to talk about that nonsense rumor?
Well, I keep saying next week. It's going to happen next week. Mm-hmm. So let's hopefully get that in for next week. It was supposed to be this week, but we had to delay the Iwata discussion because MF Wolf had to have his 5 minutes of fame. So.
Well, actually, MF Wolf was such a great guest that we just kept talking to him. So.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's great. And
I have a crush on MF Wolf.
That's fine.
I know he's young, but I think he's 20. Okay, I can say that without getting in trouble, right?
Yeah, he's legal, but his asshole is still tender.
Oh, Jesus. What? Why would you... Look, we are literally like 2.5 minutes into this episode. You're talking about a 20-year-old's asshole. And not even one that you really know. We've only met him once.
I think of him as a future staffer at this point. He's already wormed his way in as the official, unofficial DK Vine. What was it?
The official, unofficial DK Vine Forum Comic-Con 2015 correspondent.
Right.
But I guess that implies that you have personally examined the assholes of all of our current staff.
A gentleman doesn't tell.
Okay, and a lady doesn't ask.
I've got on and on about how attractive I find Matt, right?
Yeah, I think that you'd be an idiot not to.
I think we both have man crushes on Mr. Matt Corner. In fact, you know, a lot of our staff are quite handsome looking fellows.
I think we should continue talking about this just because I know that Matt is going to be squirming while he listens to it.
Oh yeah, I like a squirmy Matt Corna.
Matt Corna, by the way, is the genius behind our podcast theme song. He works.
Well, he arranged it.
He works with the Ape Raper.
Right, he arranged it. He didn't provide the vocals.
No, of course not. That would be absurd. We have actual characters on the show. And he does a lot of brilliant things on the website, including he's our chief Helmost wrangler. He seems to have the closest personal relationship with Helmost. And,
right. I think he works as an agent for Helmost.
Yeah. So anyway, Matt's a brilliant guy. If you don't know him, go to the forum and search for any post by Waddle DDD. That's Mr. Corna.
Yeah.
Why are we plugging Matt? Why are we spending time plugging Matt Corna?
I don't know. We're feeling... Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, I talked about how much I wanted to plug Matt, and now we're actually doing it.
And
so.
I did just drop a lot of ecstasy.
Well, that makes us all feel really good. I mean...
Me especially.
We'll be doing this podcast, rubbing up against each other shirtless, and quite frankly, I think that will make for some good pod.
Is that your image of what happens when people take ecstasy? They take off their shirts and rub up on each other?
Well, there's techno music playing.
Sure, you have glow sticks and pacifiers.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's fairly accurate, judging from my firsthand experience of never doing ecstasy.
Yeah, of the network sitcom exposure to what ecstasy is like. Yeah.
Yeah. And also some like news reports from the late 90s, like Channel 1 News, they did like...
Oh, now Channel 1 News, to newer listeners, this is your first exposure to Donkey Kong Country 2, right?
The commercial to it.
Commercial.
Of course, my first exposure to Donkey Kong Country 2 was Nintendo Power. I'm
Right.
not some sort of Philistine
No,
here,
but
Chad.
this was the advertisement that aped the old Samsonite luggage ad, right?
It wasn't Samsonite.
What was it?
It was some sort of luggage commercial, but Samsonite, that doesn't sound right.
I thought that was right. The one with the gorilla and the luggage is super
Yeah,
tough.
yeah. But I don't know what brand of luggage. It was before our time. I mean, it was like from the 70s.
Mad Men. Yeah, those are the lyrics to Mad Men, but I can't do them because my voice isn't back yet.
It would be funny if instead of can I get into Mad Men spoilers here?
Please do.
All right,
Mad Men spoilers.
If you don't want the series finale of Mad Men to be spoiled, then skip ahead to some time. Yeah, so
namely the 1980s.
You know how Don Draper, it ended with him thinking of the "I'd like to buy the world a Coke" ad.
Jesus Christ, yeah. American Tourister, by the way.
American Tourister. Thank you. We always forget that.
Yes.
We always forget that.
We go Samsonite, American Tourister, everyone's favorite luggage brand.
I thought it was Sodomite, personally. But no, it would have been great.
Also from the Bible.
It would have been great if instead of doing the Coke commercial, Don Draper would have thought of that gorilla ad for American Tourister. And no context, no explanation. It just ends with that commercial.
Yeah, he goes out to a retreat, decides that he has found himself. He eschews the hustle and bustle of the big city, his life with both of his wives, every woman in his life that has need for him, and decides that really who he is a gorilla trapped in a cage beating a piece of luggage.
For the record, I would have liked Breaking Bad to end that way, too.
Really, every AMC classic. Walking Dead, make it happen.
The Walking Dead's never going to end.
No, they will just continue to find new cast members to kill off as they slowly trudge toward the mythology-less grave.
Yeah, there's so much cynicism to mine from the human experience. I'm sure they can further bring down our collective culture for another 30 years. The Walking Dead is a metaphor not for the characters, but for the show itself.
Honestly, they literally dropped the line in the last season, "We are the Walking Dead."
And I'm sure Middle America was eating their popcorn saying, "That's deep, man. That's deep."
Yeah. Wow. That ain't like it was. I thought this was getting kind of shallow to myself. Honestly, the most entertaining part of The Walking Dead, which I don't get to experience now that I've given up television and I go entirely on like Hulu and Netflix, is Chris Hardwick trying to act enthusiastic in the middle of an act break where something incredibly depressing just happened.
Wow, that attempted child rape was amazeballs.
Yeah. Yeah. Hashtag slit your wrists coming up next on The Talking Dead.
Yeah, it's just the juxtaposition. It just makes no sense to me.
No, it's really foolhardy what they're doing with all of these like after show talk fests. But apparently,
I get what they're doing. They're trying to capitalize on what is like the YouTube culture. They're trying to cash in on that and trying to make it, suitable for network viewing. But it's just
there may be something there, honestly. And
I agree. I mean, it's an attempt to shoe in or like the millennial generation.
It's the water cooler.
Yeah,
for a new generation.
It's the water cooler with C-list sitcom actors and professional wrestlers, but
with immediacy. Like, you no longer have to have like a delayed gratification to talk in the water cooler the next day at work. You can see what Chris Hardwick and some borderline extra from the show you just watched and a guy from The Office, which ended 3 years ago, had to say about the episode that you all just watched. Like,
hey, granted, I can just get Rainn Wilson's opinions on The Walking Dead by going to the gas station where he works. But
oh, come on, Rainn Wilson's all right.
I know. I was trying to think of an office actor who would be out of work, and I couldn't. They're all talented people.
And you could go Ed Helms, but I swear to God, walking to work this morning, I saw an ad for the new Vacation movie, which I guess is just called Vacation?
It's just called Vacation because they no longer have the blessing of National Lampoon, who's only making like direct-to-video movies with like bikini-clad like sorority girls.
The last National Lampoon movie I saw was Senior Trip, so that will date my National Lampoon awareness.
Right, and that ties into what I was just saying, because that was just like a sex and drugs filled like romp. You know, it wasn't like.
And I saw it when I was like 12.
At some point, National Lampoon was like, "Hey, remember Animal House? Well, what if we just made Animal House only dumb?"
Right.
And yeah, it's anyway.
I remember the signature comedy set piece for National Lampoon's Senior Trip was that they go to Washington D.C. and go to Abraham Lincoln's eternal grave, and someone, or the eternal flame at his grave, maybe it was Kennedy, I don't know, someone farts on it and creates a huge fireball.
Did they at one point make a joke where the Washington Monument is a boner? Because I would be shocked and appalled if they didn't.
Well, actually, Futurama made that joke.
Well, they did it. They did it smartly, though. They did a Clinton joke, baby, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right. The Clinton Monument stands way taller than the Washington Monument because boners.
No, I would like to apologize to Rainn Wilson. I thought of him because
yeah, he's listening. He's crying, and now he's starting to dry his tears a bit.
I thought of him because I know his Fox show Backstrom was canceled. So he was like, I was trying to think which Office actor had like recent hardships that I can milk for comedy, and I picked him. But
probably Brian Baumgartner.
Also, The Farm wasn't picked up. That awful Office sitcom, thankfully, was not.
Did that ever? That went to pilot, right?
They did a pilot, and then when the show wasn't picked up, they re-edited the pilot into a normal episode of The Office's last season.
That's right. It was a backdoor failed depressing thing. Yeah.
It wasn't even a backdoor pilot. It was kind of like the sequel to Kill a Mockingbird, where they took the product and tried to repurpose it as a sequel or a normal episode, something it wasn't.
Yeah.
And even though it clearly feels like a completely divorced entity, it was Frasier minus the wit and charm and stellar acting. It was terrible.
So nothing like Frasier at all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was like I generally, you know me, I hated The Office post season 3, but the last season they did turn some things around. It was much better. Yeah,
it went down. I'd say, see, you and I have the same disagreement about The Simpsons. I give The Office another season and a half of decent episodes.
There were a couple decent episodes, but out of season 4, I'll only take Dinner Party,
which is, I think, among their absolute best.
Yeah, and it's such an anomaly in that season. To me, it actually feels like vintage off. What the fuck are we talking about? We've got things that
certainly not Satoru Iwata. Yeah, let's get back on topic. Come on, bad pod. Okay. We actually have some phone calls that we ought to get to, but before we do that, and before we talk about Mr. Iwata, let's do some due diligence.
Due diligence. It's been a while since we've had straight-on due diligence, so we need to get to it.
Right. So there are several social media platforms at which you can find us, namely...
Find us being DK Vine.
Right, not Hyle and I exclusively, although I head up our Twitter initiative and Hyle does the Facebook. We also have an Instagram, which has sort of fallen into disuse of late, but we do have a Tumblr run by Mr. Cameron Regal. And a YouTube...
He runs the Tumblr because he's the alcoholic on the staff. He's always tumbling over drunk.
Well, yeah, and you drink whiskey from a tumbler.
Well, I could have gone with that, but I like the image of Cameron falling down the stairs better.
So, yeah, and we also have YouTube, which we are actually using now. There's a ton of content that we're continually posting. We have a lot of videos that are sort of waiting in the wings, ready to go up. So, yeah, check that out. You can find us at all of those things. Just go to dkvine.com/Facebook/Twitter/Tumblr/YouTube or /Instagram, and it will take you to all of those.
Speaking of wings, how's your Paul McCartney do?
Oh, that's bad. Not great. So my voice is not quite there yet.
This is going to be the reoccurring like thread
status update.
the main plot of season 3 of the Kongversation.
I'm gonna add. So we have show notes. I'm just gonna add a bullet point to our due diligence for Chad's McCartney update.
Yeah. See, I've got. Let me try mine because mine's not as polished as yours, but.
See, you can hit it though. You've got that clarity that my inflamed esophagus refuses to allow.
Hey, let me see if my Donald Trump improved at all since last week. Yeah, I'm Donald Trump.
I say what you will about that impression, but I immediately knew who you were.
At least I'm not sounding like I'm going to rape my stepdaughter, right?
What?
Woody Allen. I did a Woody Allen. last week.
Okay. I was like, Donald Trump raped it. God, you're out of the news loop for one day.
If like Fox News had suddenly gone liberal, I could see them saying, some people are saying Donald Trump raped his stepdaughter.
I'm a big fan of Ivanka, but she's a blood relative.
Jeez.
So that's where I draw the line. Donald Trump 2016.
I would love if he got wind of this show and he immediately called a press conference to.
He probably would.
That's the thing. Like, I know, like, as somebody who follows politics, I should not be so delighted by this Donald Trump malarkey, but.
You cannot classify it as politics. It's just not. It's pure sideshow.
It's a delightful train wreck that's exposing the underbelly of like 10% of this country's beliefs. So,
no, it's not. No, it's exposing. It's not people's beliefs. It's.
There's people who believe that Mexican immigrants are rapists.
No, there are. There are people whose necks are too easily turned at something loud and shiny, and that's what Donald Trump is.
Chad, I just saw a squirrel run by the window.
Oh my God! What was it wearing?
It was amazing. I don't know what. Sorry.
The least classy button-up blue hoodie I have ever seen. Okay.
I was hoping you would end it with Trump 2016, like that's the way he ends.
I know it's not a popular opinion, but Trump 2016.
Okay. Anyway, also let's plug the hotline.
Yeah, if you want to call the Kongversation, dial 1-281-410-KONG.
That's right. It's 5664 for those of you who I don't know
how to dial letters because your phone only works in numbers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, also the DK Vine forum. It's at dkvine.com/forum. A lot of people have been joining recently. It's great.
It's been nice to see, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been people, like there was someone who came in with their own rare fan site and made a thread about it and was a little trepidatious at first. And I think this was Shogun's Truth. I think.
But they've got General Scales as an avatar. How would we not appreciate that?
Right. It's like people are always kind of nervous when they come to. Maybe it's just a new forum in general, not specific to DK Vine, but
well, each forum has its own kind of history and rules,
right.
And you never know what you're getting into, and you don't want to step on any toes. And
but
I understand
we're relatively welcoming, though. I mean, if you're someone who has an enthusiasm about Nintendo, about Rare, about Donkey Kong, about any of this stuff, or really none of this stuff, and you just want to hang out and completely relevant and talk intelligently about pop culture, we're gonna welcome you along. Just don't be a dick. Take the Will Wheaton approach, and you're welcome at our forum.
Yeah, because people really loved Will Wheaton.
Mm-hmm. Well, rainbow-colored sweaters are mandatory for all new posters.
Yeah, just leave the Quaaludes out of it.
Quaalude what?
I was thinking Cosby sweaters. I know you were making a Will Wheaton reference, but
yeah, I was making a next gen thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was making a Cosby rapes women joke.
Right. You were really reaching deep for that one.
Much as he did.
I knew it. I set you up. Entrapment. That was comedy entrapment. Okay.
I stand by what I said.
You should not. You should not at all. You should make like Jerry Seinfeld and David Letterman and retract that comment from your biography.
Oh.
Which is what they're doing to Bill Cosby's biography.
Oh, Cosby. So anyway, yeah, join the forum. You know, we've got Rare Replay coming up in just a couple of weeks.
We're about to release Rare Replay, everyone.
Rare doesn't want to release it, but we've twisted their arm. They've agreed to release it on August 4th.
Yes. So no, we're very excited about that. And I'm going to be, Hyle, have you? I know you're a huge fan of the physical copy, but have you decided, or are you going digital or physical for this one?
I've reserved my physical copy.
Physical.
We just talked about this the other week. Like I still buy physical media when it comes to my video games and my music, and so
I honestly, until this generation, I was skeptical of digital media, but playing Mario Kart 8 especially, and wanting to go back to that as sort of a standard on the Wii U, especially considering the DLC, which I really wish they would announce at least the existence of another DLC pack. That would be great.
I think they're going to ease up on the Mario Kart DLC to get people anticipating Diddy Kong Racing.
Of course. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that next week. I honestly wish that I had downloaded Mario Kart 8 so that I didn't have to switch the discs. I never saw disc switching or cartridge switching as that much of an overhead.
God, you've gotten lazy.
Until I was confronted with the alternative. And now, man, I'm a 2015 kind of gamer.
Here's the thing. I don't want my system memory to be eaten up by the games themselves. I just want like the memory, like my saved progress, All
right, well, here's the thing. I have an external hard drive on my Wii U, and I have a 1 terabyte Xbox One. So I'm never going to run out of memory on those systems.
You say that now.
Yeah, I do. Exactly. Yeah, if I continue this trend. So I'm torn, honestly. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm holding back on getting Rare Replay because we're just at that point where you'll start to see pre-order bonuses. I know there's one in the UK where you can get a Battletoads shirt by pre-ordering Rare Replay. I'm going to see if there's any domestic American ones, and if not, then maybe I'll go digital. I don't know.
If there's not one through GameStop, I really doubt there's going to be one at all.
Yeah, that's true. Well, on occasion, Toys R Us does, right?
Yeah, but for something like Rare Replay, I doubt it. I think Toys R Us would be more, I don't know, Skylanders, honestly. But
that's true. Yeah, because that game literally involves physical toys.
Right. So, although I did get my Mumbo Jumbo plush when I reserved Banjo-Kazooie at Toys R Us, but that was 1998. So
I got one of those off of eBay because I was a fool and purchased my Banjo-Kazooie from a Blockbuster video.
That's where I don't know. I got Galactic Pinball from Blockbuster
but that was like with your used Virtual Boy with its special carrying case.
I got a new Virtual Boy, but the carrying case I got from Blockbuster, and I got a bunch of the Virtual Boy games they were trying to unload. So
sorry, I can't remember what part of your Virtual Boy saga is apocrypha or not.
You can't remember your own life, Chad.
Yeah, well, much less yours. So.
Anyway, so there you go.
At least I'm consistently inconsistent.
I guess that's an attribute.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, there you go. Our due diligence for the week. You're welcome.
Da 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 da. So let's take some calls, and then we'll discuss the more solemn events of the last couple of weeks, namely the passing of Mr. Iwata.
I thought you were going to talk about Donald Trump's candidacy some more.
I'm not even. Don't bait me like that. Please don't bait me like that. First caller.
Hello, VK5. This is Q-Burn. That's E-R-N, not Q-Bird, the 80s video game icon, the first one to ever swear. But anyways, I understand that there's a lot of legal gray area surrounding Diddy Kong Racing, the original. So, most of the characters and everything, and if they go for a whole new cast, if they potentially did remake it, or not remake it, a sequel. I can't tell the difference anymore, but anyways, I'm more concerned about the music, whether who owns that area, part of it. Because honestly, I cannot imagine a Diddy Kong Racing without the da-da-da-da-da-da-da throughout. And yeah, I mean, if Nintendo didn't own that part, then that would explain why why none of the music has ever popped up in any other game. But then again, Nintendo seems to hate showing the Donkey Kong soundtrack in any of the other games for some reason besides the jungle theme. But yeah, I was just wondering what your take on the music legality, whatever, of Diddy Kong Racing's music would be. So, ciao. And also, I am thoroughly embarrassed listening to my Mac Tonight thing from last week, listening to it now. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you for the call, Cuber. And we should also note that, unfortunately, we don't have the hardware that we had when we emptied our call sack 2 weeks ago. So we're listening. We've pre-screened these calls, so we're not listening to them in real time, clearly.
Although it should be pointed out that we actually know your name now, Q-Burn. Last time, I think we thought you were Q-Bert or some other variation.
He did clarify at the top of his call, so it's all good.
Yeah, I know, but I regret that we didn't pick up your name because you are a DK Vine forum member, but we know now, so we'll never forget you, Q-Burn.
Mm-hmm. So honestly, this is a pretty simple one. Basically, when Rare developed games for Nintendo owned everything related to those games, especially pertaining to the Donkey Kong Country license. And then when the Microsoft sale went down, that's sort of when they split off who owns what. But
here's the thing though, Rare actually self-published some games during their tenure on the N64.
Okay.
Conker was never owned by Nintendo. It was always a Rare property.
Maybe Conker's Pocket Tales was owned by Nintendo for a spell.
No, it was self-published by Rare too.
Pocket Tales was really?
Yeah. Pocket Tales, Bad Fur Day.
Well, I know Bad Fur Day because no one wanted to touch that. So
I think Jet Force Gemini, I want to say.
Okay.
But Banjo-Kazooie was published by Nintendo, and that's why they own those characters. But Diddy Kong Racing was a weird case in that it was self-published by Rare, but some Nintendo characters were licensed to them, and the name itself, Diddy Kong Racing, I believe would have to be owned by Nintendo. So it's a very, very tricky area. At the time it was published, Nintendo owned Diddy, Banjo, and Crunch, and nobody else.
Right.
Obviously, after the Microsoft buyout, they did a little trade. Microsoft and Rare got Banjo properties, so then they got that character, and Nintendo
and
still
half
wants
of Tricky.
What? Right, because the Tricky thing is also a weird legal gray area. Tricky.
We tried to ask about this at E3, and basically the explanation we got was that this is a lawyer's nightmare.
Yeah. I mean,
so no one at Rare. They are aware of what a legal minefield Tricky the Triceratops is, but no one would give us a straight answer because there is no straight answer.
But beyond the clear-cut cases like Diddy and Crunch being owned by Nintendo and the other characters being owned by Rare, mine is Tricky because who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Like Tricky, his Star Fox incarnation was reused in Star Fox Assault,
Which is thoroughly Nintendo. I mean, developed by Namco, but a Nintendo game.
Nintendo feels confident enough to use him there. He's also appeared as a trophy in Smash Brothers in that form. So,
yeah.
But I don't think Rare would be ballsy enough to try to use the adult Tricky in like Sea of Thieves or something.
Right.
Not that they would, but it's anyway. So I think
the short answer though is that Nintendo owns the music to Diddy Kong Racing.
Wait, how do you know that though?
That's the deal. That's the deal. Diddy Kong Racing is a Nintendo game, and the intellectual property, I believe, was divvied up amongst like the characters, but the actual game content, that's Nintendo.
Well, we know the tracks nobody really knows because they left Greenwood Village in Jet Force Gemini in Rare Replay.
This is true. However, Greenwood Village in Jet Force Gemini doesn't have any music at all. It's basically just the audio of your little hovercraft.
Oh, okay. So I think we can't really say for sure now. If
I'm citing precedent that I know in my brain. I don't have anything. I don't have anything to cite, but I am beyond the shadow of a doubt, maybe there's a glimmer of a shadow of doubt, but I am 99 point some arbitrary number certain that Nintendo owns the soundtrack.
I think we'll know for sure when David Wise finishes work on Diddy Kong Racing for Wii U.
Which is not something we know. We don't know that.
No. But I'm just going with my my gut and the words of wisdom from Mr. Kevin Callahan. That,
oh God.
No. I mean, here's the thing. I don't think anybody really cares one way or another. I think Nintendo could use the music. That used at least redone music from Diddy Kong Racing, and nobody at Rare or Microsoft would give a shit. Now, if Rare tried to use it, I could see Nintendo maybe saying, "Hey, wait a minute." But again, it's a lawyer's nightmare. I don't know.
Here's an interesting quandary. Nintendo recently re-released Donkey Kong Land on the Virtual Console.
Yeah.
Rare is about to re-release Blast Core in Rare Replay. Both of those games share a Graham Norgate classic, which is the boss theme in Donkey Kong Land was reused as, I think, the Dozer theme or
something like that. Now I really want a new album release called Graham Norgate Classics.
Rare, make it happen.
Like, you know how in like the 80s and 90s there used to be those like TV commercials where you could get 30 hits from the original artist for I really want a commercial like that, like Freedom Rock, only just Graham Norgate. Like, yeah,
it'll be like 3 tracks from Goldeneye, all of Tremlantis.
Two burned out hippies are like sitting by their pickup truck. Hey man, are you playing Graham Norgate classics? Yeah, man. Then turn it up.
Yeah, that's radical. Where'd you get it? Well, let me tell you about an 800 number.
I was actually quoting a real commercial there.
Were you really?
That's Freedom Rock. Look it up on YouTube.
Oh, okay. You can get your degree majoring in business management or accounting.
But no, and then of course the songs would come up. The ones that are playing would be highlighted in yellow, like K. Rool's Acid Punk. What was it?
Yes, K. Rool's Acid Punk. Good memory.
And then there's the place that's like a cave, only higher.
Only a little higher.
Only a little higher.
And then there was, of course, the cave proper, which was titled KV.
That's by the way, the place that's like a cave, only a little higher. That's the only Chad McKenna penned Donkey Kong Land track name that people on YouTube have rebelled against and renamed.
I am so proud of that track name. So.
Because their point was it wasn't a cave. It was actually the mountainside.
I never said it was like a cave. It was a cave. I said it was like a cave, only a little higher.
But that's the kind of nuance that people on YouTube choose to not go for.
Well, maybe Joe can give us some insight next time he's on when he reads the comments. But no, basically what happened is when Hyle and I were in high school, first starting DK Vine, there were a number of Rare soundtracks that did not have the benefit of official releases and therefore did not have official track names. And even the ones that did, like Donkey Kong Country 2, sometimes had missing tracks, like the mine theme, the Squawks' Shaft, Cannon's Claim. So I named that one Mining Melancholy, and it kind of stuck. I also named the entirety of some of the handheld soundtracks, like Donkey Kong Land and Conker's Pocket Tales. I'm also partial to my Evil Acorn track name.
Evil Acorn, Smelly Bastard.
That's correct. So thankfully, this was in an era when it was almost unheard of for large binary files like MP3s to be widely distributed. So since we were one of the only places to get these, those files just perpetuated over LimeWire and Kazaa and Napster.
Yeah.
And so they are now on YouTube in many cases with my original like piss take file names. Yeah. So that's a legacy that I'm very proud of.
That's why it pays to get on the internet early, because you can influence entire generations if you're on there in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
So get a time machine is what I'm saying.
Your definition of influence may vary.
You were the one who came up with Evil Acorn, Smelly Bastard, which I'm sure Robin Beanland really appreciates. You should have. That could have been your icebreaker. Not, I've been following you ever since Funky's Fugue. You could have said, I was the one who named your track Evil Acorn, Smelly Bastard, and then just hug him.
Now it is unclear though. the credits to Conker's Pocket Tales say that Robin Beanland did the original score, but music and sound is by Evelyn Fisher. So I'm not sure. My take on that is that Robin was doing the 12 Tales Conquer 64 soundtrack and ultimately Bad Fur Day, and a lot of the Pocket Tales soundtrack was taken from that first draft of Conquer on the N64, but was ultimately sequenced by Evelyn Fisher.
Makes sense.
I think that's what it is.
But still, he autographed MF Wolf's Conker's Pocket Tales cartridge, so...
Like a badass.
Yeah, and I'm sure... I was kind of envious. I made fun of you for getting your shit autographed, but seeing that, I'm like, oh, man. It would have been so funny if, just a string of consecutive people approached him to autograph the Conker's Pocket Tale cartridge, I
just never in my wildest dreams would have thought that Robin fucking Beanland would be at E3. Otherwise, of course, I would have brought something to be signed.
Yeah. So anyway, I think what you're saying is you think Nintendo owns the music. I say nobody's really sure, so they're not going to touch it. But I think Nintendo would have more leeway to use it than Rare.
I would also counter one of the points that Cuburn made in his call, that Nintendo seems to hate all of the DK soundtrack except the jungle theme. I think that's really more of a Sakurai thing.
It's Sakurai and Associates. It's generally... Again, as we brought up in our Smash Brothers episodes, I don't think Sakurai hates Donkey Kong.
No.
But I don't think he has any real interest in Donkey Kong. So you can clearly see in Smash Brothers where his fandom loyalties lie.
Definitely.
So because of that, he's just going to put the bare minimum. And unfortunately, he knows there's the jungle track, and that's about it.
I mean, I'm very happy with the reappropriation of the original DKC soundtrack that Kenji Yamamoto and his team did for Returns.
Yeah, it was all right.
I think it was great. I thought it was better than all right. Like the forest sall when you pop up out of that what was it, like an empty tree stump, and then all of a sudden that theme kicks in. There were some great moments that were
that was Vine Valley.
Yeah, Vine Valley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the great moments that were punctuated by that original score in a sort of updated format, that it did hew pretty close to the original, but I think that they needed that safety in that first version. But there were also some great original tracks in that game too.
The safety word was banana.
Right. I would have loved if there was the safety dance in Returns.
Well, I would love if there was the safety dance in It's Mr. Pants, or rather, Pants Dance.
Although, unfortunately, Mr. Pants does wear a hat.
That is true.
He is a man with a hat.
Well, they would probably rename the band then.
Men Without Trousers?
No, it's Men Without Hats, unless we're doing a song for the It's Mr. Pants helmed Pants Dance, and then we will be wearing hats.
That's a pretty clunky band name.
I like it.
Okay, fair enough.
The only thing is, I'm sure they would have to shorten it on Napster.
I hope that answers your call, Cuburn.
We didn't answer anything.
Shall we take another?
Oh, please, let's.
Hey guys, it's Rob Butler here again, serving you up another question. So I was wondering, what do you think they should serve if they had a DKU-themed restaurant? I was thinking along the lines of things like maybe fried plantains, or a banana birthday cake, or like the small pizza. So I'd love to hear what you guys think, as always. Thank you very much. Oh, and sorry about last week's call. I was really hoping that you'd hear both of those messages, with my correction before you went into all that depth. But sorry about that. I can't say I didn't have a good laugh, though. I'm actually out of my depression now. So thanks. Bye.
Well, Mr. Butler, I'm glad you're out of your existential crisis, at least.
Yeah, from 2 weeks ago, Rob led off our emptying of the call sack with, actually, I think that was one of my favorite moments of us taking listener calls.
Yeah, actually, I had to get into personal spiritual beliefs. It was really not something I like to discuss.
Right, and then to have the rug pulled out from under us in the way that it did. Check out the episode 2 weeks ago. That would be episode 328. It was worth giving it a listen if you haven't heard it, especially Rob's calls at the top of the show. But a DKU themed restaurant. What would you say, Hyle?
Well, I think cream of banana soup, bananas au gratin,
fried bananas au gratin. Yeah. Basically everything.
I'm Donald Trump. I'm running for president.
I know it's not a popular opinion, but I think that the banana is proof that atheism is a lot of bunk.
Now you're just mixing Donald Trump with Kirk Cameron.
2016, I'm a proud actor, and when all the other Republican candidates have left the field, I will be the only one left behind.
Donald Trump was really great on Growing Pains, too.
You know what's unfortunate? I'm looking at my waveform as I'm recording this, and every time I do a Trump, it just tops out completely. So I apologize for the assault on the listenership.
To be fair, that was, 11 seasons of The Apprentice, so it's fine.
Did he do 11 seasons of that shit?
That's probably a lowball figure. I'm sure it was on for like 13 or 14. I don't know.
Jesus Christ. These reality shows, they live in perpetuity because there's always an audience.
Yeah, I think I gave up on network TV after Parks and Rec wrapped up. Really, I don't think I've watched network television. Although I'll have to go back when the X-Files premieres next year.
Boo!
You don't even know yet, man. You're like those people giving Donkey Kong Country Returns shit before it even came out.
That's a valid point. All I'm going off of is Chris Carter historical precedent.
Darren Morgan is writing an episode. If anything, you should be excited for that one episode.
I am excited for that one episode. However, I'm worried that it's going to have to serve some asinine Chris Carter myth arc.
The episode title, I believe, and I'm not giving the exact title here, but it's Mulder and Scully versus the Weremonster for the Darren Morgan comedy episode.
I can't tell if that's a joke or not.
No, it's something along those lines. Yeah.
There is a verses in the title.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
God.
it's a piss take episode. It's a comedy episode from the guy who wrote the best comedy episodes, minus Bad Blood.
Bad Blood, which was a Vince Gilligan classic.
Right. So
and my favorite episode. What's your favorite X-Files episode?
Probably Bad Blood, followed by Jose Chung, or I also like also I really like the episode with Bryan Cranston where
Drive.
Yeah.
I would say I would go. Of course, Bad Blood's my number one. But an immediate standout is Kitsunigari, which is the second
Pusher episode.
Yeah, it's the second one with Robert Patrick Modell.
You're right.
Yeah.
And then they got Robert Patrick to reprise a role for 2 years after Duchovny left.
Yeah, as a gruff New York detective. Yeah, with a heart of gold.
Are you? So you're just doing this voice now that's like Donald Trump, like
this is my Robert Patrick, and all I have to do is take a little of the gravel out and increase the volume a bit. Yeah, it's the same. I just do. I have one impression. I think that's it. I just double up on my impressions. I have a Robert Patrick / Donald Trump. I have a Matthew McConaughey / Bill Clinton.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love dropping my Lincoln Continental straight to the poon house. Yeah. It's just not, see, it makes you giggle, which is the only reason I do it, because it's not actually funny.
I've been encouraging that shit for years now.
Yeah, I don't know why you love my McConaughey impression so much. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So, long story short, the X-Files is coming back next year. Anyway, I gave up on network TV, and so I
answered your question, Rob?
No. Well, let's answer his question.
Sure. This is if they had a DKU themed restaurant.
Okay, for starters, your restaurant would close within 3 months if you had a DKU themed restaurant.
That's assuming you got a business loan for 3 months of being open.
Here's how you would have a DKU themed restaurant. we would have a DKU themed restaurant at the Kongversation we would eventually hold to bring together Donkey Kong Universe fans. That's about it.
Speaking of the hypothetical Kongversation, looking at some of the material from Camp Fangamer, and our own Nick Prohl, a.k.a. Spuzzwick, was there and did a few Which Brothers Bears Best, one of which, no. By the time you listen to this, one of those will be on YouTube. They actually had an Earthbound-themed convention that also celebrated, of course, Fangamer and Nintendo in general. And it seems like it was a lot of fun. And that's exactly the kind of model that we would want to follow if we ever got to do a convention.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing a convention for years, but just kind of a casual, wouldn't that be nice? So, yeah, it's something. Yeah. Something to think about. Something to consider.
It's something that would be nice if we were older.
Is that a Brian Wilson reference?
It is.
Okay, I was like, is he making a Beach Boys Pet Sounds joke?
Well, you said, wouldn't it be nice? And I just felt like I could continue with that, and you being a massive Beatles and Friends fan would pick it up, but maybe it wasn't on the nose enough.
Beatles and Friends, not Beatles and the sitcom Friends.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was the cover from the album Love that didn't make it to the final release.
Yeah. So anyway, I think the only way there would be a DKU restaurant if it was this limited time thing at the convention. So I think, the banana birthday cake, an obvious choice, Rob. But I can't really think of like too many times there's been a real focus on food in the DKU that's not like just fruit.
The opening cinema to Conker's Pocket Tales?
Again, cake. This is going to be a restaurant that serves nothing but pastry.
It's a cake. Yeah, this is really what's the word for a pastry? A pasticceria? Is there there's got to be some word in French for a pastry shop.
We could have Craig Duncan's Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, but that's not a new restaurant, nor is it a Donkey Kong Universe themed restaurant.
No, but I would like to
just making a pun off of a man's name.
I would like to put Craig Duncan to work, feeding us donuts.
He works hard enough already, damn it.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be up for it though.
He doesn't need to hawk donuts.
I don't know, like you could have honeycombs, but again, these are all just raw, unprocessed food. Like I like the Kongs and everybody else, they live kind of a natural life. They like cake and they like fruit, and that's about it.
Right? Yeah, because cake is all natural. You know.
I guess we could have maybe a DKU bar would be the way to go. Mm-hmm. You could have like a Jolly's bar,
whiskey, Speyside, no ice,
or
or a bottle of beer. That would basically be all they serve. Yeah,
Seaman Surprise. And,
Toad in the Hole.
Yeah.
What was the ginger beer?
Ginger beer. We had this discussion the other day with we during a Lobo Destroyo writing session. I brought up the fact that ginger beer is slang in the UK for homosexuality, and
I think Jamie Guy and Tom Bennett, who are both from the UK, challenged that Urban Dictionary definition.
Because they left when they were 10 years old.
Oh, okay. So it must have only arisen in UK slang in the last 10 years?
To be fair, I don't know how many 10-year-olds are going around calling people ginger beers either.
Also, to be fair, I don't think one fleeting definition on Urban Dictionary is...
It's not Urban Dictionary. I've heard it referenced lots of times.
Where have you heard ginger beer as a... All right,
Banjo-Tooie!
Maybe it was just ginger beer because they couldn't put beer on the sign in an E-rated game.
No, man. Everything about Jolly's bar was flaming, and including the ginger beer.
Okay, well, how do you explain Captain Black Eye then?
He's a fancy man who likes to be out at sea with a bunch of men. Like what what do you want?
All right, fair enough. I don't know. I think the ginger beer thing's a bit dubious, but maybe we can get
the only other patron inside Jolly's is a mole who dresses as like a guy from the Village People.
I knew that was coming. Yep.
So and you ask what Richard Gere does with small rodents. So there you go.
Would it be possible to recreate the entire Village People archetype with the cast of Banjo, Kazooie, and Tooie? You've got the military man. You've got a sailor.
Got a Native American.
Humbawamba, sure.
Yeah.
There a policeman? There's the pig from Nuts and Bolts.
Yes.
I forget his name. That's really embarrassing. Officer Piggleston. Who am I missing from the Village People?
There's the construction worker.
Oh shit! Was there ever a construction worker in Banjo?
There
was a rat in Grunty's Revenge, wasn't there?
No, but he was kind of a shady character who like sold you goods.
Oh, okay. He wasn't Mr. Ripovsky.
Yeah, which is totally not a racist name.
Wait, because it's like Polish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also no, there are the bunnies who worked in Grunty Industries.
But those are just blue collar workers. They're blue collar and brown pants.
You could fudge it though. I see what I did there.
Okay, so we've got all the Village People from Banjo except for.
By the way, we are not answering Rob's question whatsoever.
No, because I don't think we have a good answer for it.
I'm trying to think. But a lot of bananas, cake, and alcoholic products. So there you go. That's a DKU restaurant.
That's my kind of restaurant.
Yeah, that's perfectly tailor made for Chad McKenna. You like your phallic shaped fruits. You like your booze.
Actually, you know what? I don't like sweets. And honestly, fruit is a little too sweet for me. I have really overactive sweet receptor taste buds because I go savory every time. If I'm going to eat, I would go plantain before I'd go bananas.
And yet you threw away my semen cookbook.
It was all sweets, man. They were just going to go straight from my loins to my hips.
Nobody told you to eat all that pineapple. Then it wouldn't be so sweet.
Oh, Jesus, man. That cookbook was disgusting. It made me want to vomit.
I almost sent you another one the other month. It was
There are more. Oh.
There's the Seaman Bartender's Guide.
And
on the cover is like somebody pouring this white liquid into a drink.
I'm actually gagging right now.
Well, it was off-white.
This is horrible. Oh, that was the worst part about the first Seaman cookbook.
We've talked about the Seaman cookbook so many times on this show.
You brought it up, man. I want to forget. This is one thing that I do want my brain to forget.
And yet, I love how all the things you remember, or all the things you forget, the one thing you remember is the Seaman cookbook.
You won't let me forget it.
I guess I
won't.
So
gross. It's so
I guess
fucking
that's true.
Gross.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So a lot of semen-based drinks, Rob.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll serve those oyster shells filled with chilled semen and a little squirt of lemon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are we done?
I think I finished up.
That was an actual recipe from this fucking cookbook Hyle gave me. Yeah. It was vegetarian. Depending on how you define vegetarian.
It wasn't vegan,
oysters.
but it was vegetarian.
Oh, Jesus.
Oysters could never be vegetarian.
Because of the shell?
Because you're killing a life form. Yeah. Anyway.
No, but I guess if you fill the oyster shell with semen. Okay, let's stop talking about this. Let's please fucking stop talking about this.
Very well. Let's take the next call.
Thanks.
Which brother's bear is best? Which brother's bear is best? Which brother's bear is best? Which brother's bear? Which brother's bear is best? Which brother's bear is best? Is best?
Well, all right. In the words of Selena Meyer, we have been hoisted by our own retard.
You can't say that word.
You don't watch Veep. So you don't know whether I can say it or not.
You don't know what I watch.
So, Hyle, we've been confronted. The gauntlet has been thrown. Which brother's bear is best?
Oh, Jesus. Well, I feel like we should withhold our answers because we're going to influence the vote.
Nope. When someone asks you, you have to answer because there is no wrong answer, but you will be judged.
Okay, well, it's fucking Bizarre Bear.
Bizarre Bear? Why do you say Bizarre Bear?
Bizarre Bear. He lives next to Funky's Boat Rentals and Wrinkly's Save Cave. He's friends with the Kong. He went into business with Funky in Donkey Kong Land 3. Fuck you, Mario Wiki, for even considering the notion of Bear. That was bizarre all the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Bizarre, he is the tightest with the Kongs. If the Kongs ever needed the help of a brother bear, he would be the first one to show up. That makes him the most likely character to be reoccurring if Retro ever decides to use the brothers bear.
Uh-huh.
I love Bizarre Bear. He's awesome.
That's great. Well, Hyle, as luck would have it, you are absolutely correct.
What?
Yeah, although, strangely enough, I feel like this is Schrodinger's bear because I believe, and I know that I'm correct, that Baffle Bear is the best brothers bear.
Now, that does baffle me because why would you say Baffle Bear?
Well, it's very simple, Hyle, because Baffle Bear has a bow tie that spins.
That is pretty simple. Well, you know what, Chad? Despite what I just said, I think you're right.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, let's take the next call.
This brothers bear is best.
Okay, well, I guess that makes it official. We have really strange callers.
Yeah, no, I love... Okay, I think the Witch Brothers Bear concept is starting to wear a bit thin in that...
Never!
I think it gets to be a bit much after, like, you've put out 30 videos of nothing but Witch Brothers Bear is best. But... I will say this. I love that it's catching on, at least with the people who listen to the show and frequent DK Vine. I think it should be something that people ask of others. I feel like
it needs to be democratized, and the wheels are already starting to turn. I mean, we saw our DK Vine forum official and official correspondent ask others at San Diego Comic-Con which Brothers Bear is best. Recently. We and of course we the aforementioned Nick Prohl at Camp Fangamer. Just a few days ago, I got a tweet from someone who posted a screenshot of their Skype chat where the entire chat room was talking about which Brothers Bear is best.
Yeah. And people really want to get their hands on the print of the Which Brothers Bear is best, I guess, chart or whatever, the thing we're holding up at E3 to befuddled Rare employees. And
you there, make sense of this.
So, people really wanted to get their hands on it. We're like, well, if we ever distribute them to the outside world, one of the caveats is that you'll have to ask people which Brothers Bear is best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is an extreme caveat, but I think it's a decent price for admission in addition to whatever you have to pay to get the poster.
So I eventually want this to be the question on the lips of the world: which Brothers Bear is best? It should always be trending on Twitter, always.
Now, the Republican debates are very contentious, but I have come prepared with my answer. I'm not going to tell you. It belongs behind a subscription gateway. Trump 2016. That's what he would do. He's not going to volunteer that kind of, hot tidbit.
That's true. Although I would say his answer for which Brothers Bear is best would probably be whatever bear most resembles his hair, which I think would be probably Benny or Bjorn.
You think Benny or Bjorn? I think potentially Boomer.
After the dynamite explosion?
Yeah, well, Boomer himself never got blown up.
No, but I'm saying he likes to blow things up.
Okay. I don't get that reference. Does Donald Trump blow things up?
No, but his hair looks like he was caught in some sort of...
That's a stretch, man. There are a lot of angles to take with Donald Trump.
I know, but Donald Trump...
explosions is not one of them.
Donald Trump hair jokes are so hacky, they've been done. I mean, we wouldn't want to delve into hacky late-night comic material here on The Conversation.
I know that late-night comic material is unpopular, but we're still going to do it. Trump 2016...
All right, I'm already tired of this bit.
Yep.
Can we take? I think we have one more call. Can we take the last call?
I just want to say my favorite thing about Donald Trump's cadence is that he always ends a sentence sounding like he's got more to say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that this is the end of my sentence.
Does he do that, or is that just something you decided he does for the sake of your impression?
It might be. Next call.
All right, hey guys, it's DKBK. That was sort of a joke call. My real question is, after Sea of Thieves, do you think that Rare will work on a new Banjo game? That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, so we did not play DKBK's joke call because it was kind of a joke call time waster thing, but this was a decent.
It also hewed too closely to Rob Butler's call from 2 weeks ago.
Right, without like an actual one after another joke, like Rob Butler's unintentional one, that was brilliant.
Rob Butler is brilliant when he's being unintentional.
It was honestly that Rob Butler series of calls is one of my favorite moments of us opening the hotline. But DKBK, solid question. Hyle, what do you reckon after Sea of Thieves?
Well, this is already becoming a topic of debate this week because we had a Rare employee hint on Twitter that they've started a prototype for a new game. Now that work on Rare Replay is finished, they've got some team members who probably won't be moving on to Sea of Thieves who will probably be starting a new project.
Right. Well, we certainly know that, Rare Replay and Sea of Thieves have both been completely developed in parallel.
So... I don't think everybody's going to be moving to Sea of Thieves. I think that, Rare is absolutely going to start work on a new game and has already started work on a new game. So,
moreover, there's a department at Rare that, again, I think Lou O'Connor is heading up. That's basically like their R&D ARPANET Skunkworks department where they prototype ideas and figure stuff out. I think that's what my brain thoughts remember having seen at some point. So in addition to potential 2 full-on development pipelines, they may have another one that's focused on concepts and R&D.
The same part of your brain that told you that Nintendo owns the Diddy Kong Racing music, despite not having any evidence to back that up.
It might be, yeah. No, I thought I saw that on her Twitter description, but maybe I'm
sure
that up.
you're more well versed in what's going on in the Twitter sphere than I am.
What's going on in the Twitter sphere?
What is that? That's not a song.
I'm gonna make it one.
No, you do not have the authority to write jingles for us. We are not John Stamos and Dave Coulier circa season 2 and 3 of Full House.
Oh God, that is a deep cut that I'm not going to engage in.
Got to get ready for Fuller House, man. You got to bone up on your Full House.
I completely forgot that Fuller House was a thing. I'm holding out hope for family antimatter.
They just fully embrace the sci-fi aspect this time around.
Exactly. Yeah. Jaleel White is still alive. Reginald Vell-Johnson's still kicking.
Reginald Vell-Johnson's on a TBS sitcom right now.
What? No.
Guess what? He plays a gay man.
He's working?
Yes.
Oh my God, I fucking love Reginald Vell-Johnson.
He plays a hairdresser or something.
Okay. What's the show called?
I don't know.
I must see it.
It's on TBS. I don't think anybody knows.
Not even TBS. It aired. What was the joke from 30 Rock about BET? It was like Tracy Morgan's favorite show. Like, when does
Black
it air?
Frasier.
Oh, Black Frasier. That's right.
Yeah.
It's like it airs at like 9:15.
Which, to be fair, Black Frasier was still better than Black the Farm.
Wait, better than what?
Better than Black the Farm.
I don't know
the failed Office spinoff.
Oh. Wow, that was a real stretch.
From earlier in this episode when we compared The Farm to Frasier.
Okay, but all right. We're not on the top of our game tonight, clearly.
No, clearly we're not.
This is an awful, awful episode. This will go down in the annals of history as our worst podcast ever.
Oh, no. That would be Bears, Season 1, Episode 7.
I love that you have at the ready our worst episode ever.
And in my defense, I've got about 4 or 5 semen brews in me right now.
God,
so.
I cannot kick this fucking cough. I apologize to the listener.
You know, they say honey is good for that, but I would wager semen's pretty good for
God.
it too.
Oh, fucking God. Let's, did we answer we answered DK.
No, we didn't. Does he think
we did?
Does he think Rare will work on a new Banjo game? We said Rare's definitely working on something. We didn't say if we thought it was Banjo or not.
Well, here's the thing. Greg Mayles is obviously putting all of his weight behind Sea of Thieves. And he's the brains behind, he's the chief designer of the Banjo series, or at least Kazooie and Tooie. I'm not sure if he spearheaded Nuts and Bolts or not. That's a part of my Rare knowledge that evades me at the moment.
We know Chris Sutherland was on Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if Greg did that, but I honestly, at this point, I think it'd be interesting to see a Banjo developed not by Greg Mayles, but with him in the same studio to sort of provide insight as needed.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Greg Mayles, I don't want to speak for him. I don't know what's going through his head. Maybe he doesn't have anything more to say with Banjo-Kazooie. Tooie was his magnum opus. And
man, Tooie advanced what a 3D platformer could be.
You've really come around on Banjo-Tooie in the last year.
Banjo-Tooie is very, very close to being my favorite game ever. It's like it is nipping at the heels of DKC2, which is another Greg Mayles joint.
Right. Another Greg Mayles sequel, yeah.
Yeah, a sequel, which is it's cool that I think he's even sort of admitted that like their second games are always the best.
According to MF Wolf last week.
Yeah, it's San Diego Comic-Con. MF Wolf got us that little Mayles exclusive.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're portmanteauing all the things. But yeah, I would love to see what more can be said, considering the leap from Banjo-Kazooie to Tooie. I want to see the leap from Tooie to 3E and truly what they do, because
but I think too much time has passed for there to be a genuine leap between the two. It's
really. You think they would have to go back to the basics to reestablish it?
I don't, but there's going to be a little bit of discontinuity. It's not going to feel like, wow, this is really built on what came before. Too much time has naturally passed.
I'm not talking from a story point of view. I'm talking...
No, I know, but even from like just basic design, it's been too long. It just, the creative process doesn't work that way.
What do you mean? Do you think that they would be a little rusty?
I'm saying if they did a Banjo 3 in like 2002, that would be one thing. But 2016, 17? No, it's not going to pick up exactly where their brains left off. So,
why not?
Because
that's what Ukulele's doing.
Is it though? We don't really. I mean, Ukulele might be. It's harkening back to, but it's. I don't think.
So you think that's more of a nostalgia grab than an advancement?
I would never say Ukulele is a nostalgia grab, because that implies something negative about it.
That would imply that the logo and the characters and the title are derivative in some way.
It's definitely playing to nostalgia, but I think they just want to make that kind of game again. But I don't think it's going to build off Tooie so much as kind of taking elements from both and making something that probably harkens back to the original more than Tooie, but was still something new to say.
Yeah.
But I would never say Ukulele is a direct predecessor to Banjo-Tooie, because just too much time has passed and people change.
Yeah, and well, I think that's kind of what I think we're saying the same thing in different ways. Like I want to see,
but we've got to disagree, so we're just getting hostile about it.
I want to see, with the benefit of where the video game industry has gone all this time.
Okay. I thought you were saying like you wanted to see like exactly what Banjo 3 would be like as of if there had never been a broken chain of Banjo games.
No. I'm saying I'm not looking for whatever the hell was teased when they're kicking Grunty's skull around on top of Cauldron Keep. That Banjo 3 is lost to the ages. I just want to see what else they have to say about the 3D platformer genre, because clearly after, Banjo-Kazooie was basically a Mario 60. It was Mario 64 done way better, but it was definitely it was definitely evocative of that basic game design. Whereas Tooie said, "All right, we have the mechanics down. Now we're going to go absolutely batshit crazy, involved, intricate, intelligent with the design." And part of the detriment of that was that people didn't know how to approach the game. But I love that they were so ballsy that they took that next step to such an extreme degree. And I don't want to see where the game would have picked up, but I want to see that sort of evolution in the 3D platformer genre from Tooie to something else.
Yeah. I think if Rare has something unique to say, then absolutely they should be doing a banjo game next.
Mm-hmm.
But with ukulele and everything, I think they have time to,
like Lobo Destroyo versus La Liga de los Villanos.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they have time to not do a banjo. I don't know. I don't honestly know if they're doing a banjo game or not, or if they'll do one after Sea of Thieves, or if they're working on one right now.
Well, we do know that they're positioning themselves with Rare Replay to basically get to work on whatever they want to next. Because much like the original idea behind doing Conquer Live and Reloaded to sort of reestablish Bad Fur Day in the minds of an Xbox audience, Rare Replay is really reestablishing all of Rare's major IP in a wide audience. And thankfully, we know that they led the pre-sales out of E3, so a lot of people are going to be exposed to these characters and concepts.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want now. It could be a new game. It could be something based out of Rare Replay. It could be a Monster Max sequel. It could be anything that they want to do.
I really doubt it's going to be a Monster Max sequel.
You never know.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
I think
literally no way to know.
Here's the thing. I think people are going to be saying it's Battletoads, no matter what, because people are just intent that they're making a new Battletoads game. And, they could be working on Battletoads. There's definitely been a push for Battletoads above all other things in Rare Replay as far as...
but I think we sort of settled on why that is in one of our previous episodes.
Did we?
Yeah, because basically without Donkey Kong Country there to bridge the 16-bit era, there's a huge conspicuous gap in Rare Replay. So they really need to push Battletoads to sort of fill in for the lack of talking apes and monkeys.
Although they also have made new Battletoads renders, which they haven't made for anybody else. So I don't know.
Right, but I think that goes hand in hand with making sure that that there's a continuity of title releases in Rare Replay. That I think the Battletoads push isn't really indicative of a new Battletoads game as much as they just needed something for those mid-90s years.
Maybe. And
Battletoads is certainly a worthwhile original Rare IP to put there. It's just definitely getting more attention, and I think that's why.
Yeah. And I don't know. Part of me still wants to say if a new Battletoads game is coming, it'll be developed outside of Rare. But I don't know if that's just me wanting them to work on Banjo or something, or me not having
Conquer. What do you reckon there?
Wow, that's a whole other discussion because I'm still waiting for any news out of Team Dakota about their continuation.
We were really hoping to see Team Dakota at E3. See if there would maybe be an episode 2 for Conquer's big reunion.
There's kind of been some radio silence there, so we'll have to do some digging. Maybe I don't know.
By digging, maybe we'll just tweet Team Dakota and ask them.
It takes a lot of work, man.
It does. That 140 characters doesn't write itself.
It really. I sit in front of the screen for hours, just wondering how I can compress my 8 paragraphs into 140 characters. And
Facebook has ruined you for social media.
Let's be fair, I was already ruined. Yeah. Facebook is the only place that will have me at this point.
Yeah, well, it'll have you on the order of 37,000 fans. I can't believe that.
36,500. Let's not exaggerate.
Yeah, we won't inflate our numbers. By the time this episode airs, it'll be 37,000.
It really won't, but it's fine. Maybe in like 2 weeks or so.
Jesus Christ, that's insane. I'm hovering now on the Twitter at almost 900.
That's still nothing to sneeze at. Now, granted, Donald Trump's Twitter numbers are... I'm doing Woody Allen a little bit, but I'm just going to go with it. Donald Trump's Twitter numbers are huge, all right? I mean, DK Vines is pathetic.
Andre Summers had a pretty great Woody Allen-related tweet that he put out recently. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Oh, this is great podding, man.
This is excellent pod. All right, it was a headline. Woody Allen's latest film is a refreshing example of Witty he raped his daughter.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's Andre Summers.
Not him.
At Andre Summers.
Not him raping his daughter is good, but the joke is good.
Yeah, no, the fact that people still for some reason regard Woody Allen's films as like it's Roman Polanski.
Roman Polanski's I don't know
has been vilified, whereas Woody Allen somehow everyone's forgotten about Sun Yi. But okay.
Well, I think Roman Polanski. There's still people who work with Roman Polanski, so let's not say he's. No, there's still plenty in Hollywood who defend him. So you know what? Fuck Roman Polanski.
I think if anything, the Kongversation is anti-rape. So let's just come out and say that.
It's a big stance to make, but we're coming out and saying it.
I know it's an unpopular opinion, but Woody Allen should not be recognized for his comedy so much as his horrible. Donald Trump does the silent H. His horrible proclivities toward his children. Trump 2016.
Donald Trump would never say that.
No. This podcast is just off the rails at this point.
It is. So let's talk about the death of a beloved icon.
Jesus. Yeah, so this one, if we thought the San Diego Comic-Con thing was going to be like an inappropriate tonal shift, this is bad.
Well, here's the thing, and this is something I've struggled with. Is there a good way to bring up this subject on the Kongversation?
Not really.
And that's because the show really isn't built for eulogizing and paying tribute. I'm sure if somebody who is closer to the world we inhabit, one of the beloved figures who made it, a DKU game like Donkey Kong Country or whatever, unfortunately passed on. And as the show, goes forward, as we continue to age, as we all age, we're going to run into this more and more. And it's something I'm not really sure how to deal with, because somebody on the forum brought this up, and it's a really, really good point. The video game industry is younger than most industries. It's only really been around for a couple decades now. So we barely had to deal with death. It happens occasionally, but it's rare when it does. And
really the only Gunpei Yokoi, he's really the only one that immediately springs to mind at this same level.
And I don't think it hit me when he died, like how sad it was.
Well, we were only like 13 years old. So.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think that was still at the point where I could really separate the creators from what they created. So to me, I had the Virtual Boy, I had the Game Boy, but I didn't really care where it came from. I didn't really pay enough respect to the creators, and that's something I didn't really learn until going to rareware.com every day. Rareware, and that's really when I started getting interested in the behind the scenes mechanics of games. And
it was also sort of difficult because as Nintendo fans growing up, with the exception of the Treehouse and whatever promotional material they put out, these games are really developed by Japanese people with whom we don't share a language, so it's very difficult to sort of share a fan connection with that.
Right. And Gunpei, he's kind of gotten notoriety now, but back then, really Nintendo promoted Miyamoto, and that was basically it as far as like the big celebrities of Nintendo go.
Right.
And it's gotten better since then, but certainly with the internet, a lot of Nintendo celebrities have arisen, but the big three have been for the last several years Iwata, Miyamoto, and Reggie. So, and as we saw at E3 with their Not Muppet performance theater.
Yeah, and speaking of that, it didn't occur to me until someone pointed it out, but Iwata wasn't visually seen in that entire direct. Although it felt like he was. I didn't even register that.
Yeah.
But it was just his voice, which was, I guess very well done. And I think that's, it really speaks to the extent to which he didn't want to upset the fans. And there was a photo.
And also, I'm sure there's keeping up appearances with the shareholders, and he was a businessman too, so you know you don't want the face of your company to be dying in public. That's not.
There was a photo that was released shortly after his death. That looked, it was obviously a professionally taken portrait. That I think some people had said after he was revoted in as president during the summer, that's part of what they do is they take a new photo, and I can see why they waited until after his death. He does look very gaunt, and it was a very sad photo to see. But the fact that he didn't want fans to worry about him in that way really, he wanted everyone to focus on the fun and the games. It really speaks to his dedication to Nintendo as a brand, but also just the concept of games as escapism.
I'm trying to think now. I think did he only appear once since last E3? I know, because he didn't attend last E3 either. That's when news first surfaced that he had some sort of growth on his bile duct, and and he was having surgery or something. But I think he appeared on one Nintendo Direct in between the two E3s.
Yeah, most of them were, like, the Smash ones were done by Sakurai.
And to be fair, most of the Directs this past year have been Smash related, so, I mean...
Right.
But yeah, I think he appeared once, and you could tell then he was looking a lot thinner and gone, as you said. But I don't know, I was thinking... After that, we didn't really hear anything about it. I was just kind of hoping he was recovering and it wasn't really an issue anymore. And I think maybe that's just me being naive, hoping for the best and trying to put it out of my mind,
Yeah, and I think that, and really, it seems to me like that's what he wanted. He didn't want people to fixate on his health.
Well, I'm sure he didn't want to fixate on it either. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I know, like, I wouldn't want it to be continually brought up, so it's best just to keep it, private, and I'm not speaking for him. I don't know what he wanted, but I mean, human nature, I think, especially somebody who's so driven as he was, I can definitely relate to that notion.
I just think it's really in keeping with his general philosophy of putting fans and fun before everything else. Whether or not, and we've had our rows with Iwata's direction with Nintendo.
That's what I wanted to bring up too, because how the hell do we on the Kongversation pay our respects to a man who, if you go back and listen to our first two seasons, I mean, I don't think we were ever like mean or anything, but we definitely disagreed with his philosophy or some of his philosophies.
Well, no, it's not really his philosophy. I think it's more some of the business decisions that he made that were seemingly derived from those philosophies. But I feel sort of like Iwata the same way I do about Ron Paul, who's a well, listen. I don't agree with a lot of Ron Paul's very stringent libertarian views, but what I do respect about him is that he has conviction and he is consistent. And Iwata certainly had a vision for Nintendo and was always consistent, and you knew where he stood, and he never seemed cynical. He always seemed to have the best interest for the audience at heart. And it's similar to I think what Ron Paul has, and while I think that some of those decisions may be misguided as for me as a specific Donkey Kong fan, but maybe not for people as larger Nintendo fans,
or libertarians
for that matter. I think that it's admirable that someone in a modern corporate culture could have that kind of stalwartness.
Yeah, I mean. Look,
it's hard, isn't it?
I'm trying to be respectful and not, put my foot in my mouth, and that's hard for me. I think, with Iwata, I disagreed with him quite a bit on this show, and I'm not going to retract those statements because just because the man died doesn't change the past. But
and you've got journalistic integrity, clearly.
I have no journalistic integrity, but I like to be consistent. But despite all that, I genuinely liked Iwata. I may have thought he may not have been, some of the business decisions I may not have agreed with, but I'm not a businessman either, so what the fuck do I know?
Right.
I generally, though, I loved his presence on Nintendo Directs. I liked him from what he showed us as a person. I shared on Facebook, one of my fondest memories of the last couple of years was him being the one to announce Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze to us. I thought that was just such a great moment. And he had a very calming influence on those directs. You walk into them with a bundle of nerves and, are they going to talk about my favorite series? Are they going to announce a game I care about? It's just like that apprehension that comes with being an intense fan of something. And Iwata always had a way, please understand it's become a meme, here and elsewhere, but he really did have a way to make you want to understand and really reassure you that everything was going to be all right. And I'm going to miss that calming influence as a fan most of all, I think.
I have to, I don't work in games, but I work in software, and just below the surface of every release, there is panic and chaos. And, it's crazy getting the latest build out the door and making sure that it doesn't have any showstopper bugs. And at a place like Nintendo, where they have dozens of projects in the pipeline at any given time, I can only imagine the roiling, boiling chaos that is just below that surface. And Iwata was always the bridge between that and a very calm, very poised, forward-facing image.
He was the stereotypical Japanese businessman, He was like,
I don't think so, because the stereotypical Japanese businessman, at least from how it's been depicted in like Newhart, that's the archetype you're talking about, right?
Well, just somebody who's he keeps it under. I don't know. For me, the stereotypical Japanese businessman is Iwata. He keeps it under control. He's very polite and
it seems very, very cold, calculated, fish out of water. Whereas Iwata always seemed like he was cool as a fucking cucumber. Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. Maybe there is no stereotypical Japanese businessman if we have two different interpretations of what that means.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I just think Iwata was a great businessman. That I don't think he's a stereotypical, nationality anything. I just think he was basically for what Nintendo needed in a post Hiroshi Yamauchi world. I think he fit the bill pretty perfectly. And the great thing about Iwata, I really want us to talk a bit about his history, because unlike legacy executives, Iwata was the real deal, man. I mean, he was a developer made good,
Well, yeah. I mean, look, unfortunately, I'm not that well familiar with his legacy. It's not like I'm a big balloon fight aficionado.
But you know that he programmed Balloon Fight and then went on to be the president of Nintendo.
I do know that, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that trajectory is kind of unheard of. I mean, especially in a modern business climate, you typically get people who are on sort of an executive track and then jump from executive job to executive job, whereas he literally worked his way into a position where he was actually able to continue to be creative while at that level, which is just it's unprecedented, really. He's an anomaly in corporate culture.
Although I don't know if he's an anomaly in Nintendo culture, and I guess that's to be determined. But
right.
It definitely fits. I think Nintendo's MO more than other companies, and of course he when you talk about his legacy, there's Earthbound.
Have you heard the thing about what he did on Pokemon Gold Silver?
I think everybody's heard that thing in the last couple of weeks. I mean, I didn't know about it until his passing, and everybody was starting to talk about it.
That just blew my mind. So for any listeners who didn't hear, basically, when Game Freak was working on Gold Silver, which was the original Game Boy, was it on Game Boy Color?
I think so.
Okay, well, basically that same caliber of hardware. It wasn't a Game Boy Advance title. Version of Pokemon, the follow-up to Red Blue.
Yeah, Game Boy. It would be on Game Boy Color.
Game Boy Color. Yeah, they were not able to. The cartridge didn't have enough memory for the map for that game, and Iwata basically said, "Okay, let me handle it." And he it took a weekend or a week, some unreasonably short amount of time, and turned around and not only optimized the code to be able to hold the entire map screen for Johto, but he was also able to squeeze all of Kanto, the entirety of Red Blue, into the game as well, and basically turned that game. He not only made Gold Silver releasable, but he doubled the size of it.
Yeah,
he was like their programming pinch hitter. He's like the special forces, the Green Beret of programming at Nintendo. When Super Smash Bros. Melee wasn't going to release in of winter 2001 because it basically was just way behind schedule. He went in, from what I've heard, and did like some last minute programming tuning that allowed it to go gold in time for ultimately, it's November, December release.
Well, let's talk about his work on the original Smash Brothers. He was one of the instrumental men in coming up the concept with Sakurai.
Oh yeah, when it was basically that fighting polygon team game.
Yeah, it was like those just blank, like characterless blobs who were fighting in a sumo-based fighting game, and I don't know, it was their idea to put Nintendo mascots in it, and it was a very hard sell for Nintendo because that's so out of the norm for Nintendo at the time to not only have all of these characters from disparate franchises appear in a game, but have them fighting each other.
Yeah.
Like that's a no-no in Nintendo world,
Right.
circa 1998. So yeah, the fact that not only did he pioneer that, but he also kind of set the course we're on now, where we have amiibos and where crossovers.
Hyle, amiibo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't pluralize.
Oh God, that makes me look like an idiot.
Yeah, let's stay on brand. Also, GameCube is in all caps. I hope that's how you pronounced it.
Nobody does that anymore, Chad.
Yeah, even Nintendo abandoned that.
Yeah, it's now game. The G and the C are capitalized.
Yes,
Everything else.
It's a camel case thing.
Yeah. No, but I mean, look at like Link's appearing as DLC in Mario Kart now. I mean, that would never be the case 15 years ago.
Right. Yeah,
So-
and that's really, I think that one of the things that Iwata really brought was that, like, yeah, have fun with it. Just and it did erode the arbitrary walls of fictional reality a bit, but ultimately, who gives a shit?
Well, I do, but luckily I can fan wank it all away.
Exactly. It becomes to people like us, it becomes a creative exercise.
See, what bothers me is the people who don't have fun with it, who choose to disregard it. Well, that's not canon. That's just we're not gonna consider it. Like people who run wikis and whatnot, and it's just like, you know what, have fun with it. We're being presented this amazing thing. Embrace the absurdity of it,
Mm-hmm.
But that's DK Vine's philosophy. That's not neither here nor there. Let's talk about Iwata. And yeah, he that is a good point about him. He definitely brought a looser kind of less rigid structure to what's permissible at Nintendo, and for that I really applaud the man. And I hadn't really considered that before.
Yeah, and they really also, especially in the last I caught myself saying the last few years of his life. That's a really tough pill to swallow. In the tail end of his tenure, in
the last couple of years.
The last couple of years. Sorry, I just kind of got hit by a wave. The last few years, you would even see Nintendo kind of poking fun at itself in Nintendo Direct, which never would have flown under the old guard. Like there was one.
They're
where,
even referencing the Virtual Boy now.
Yeah, it's like they talked about, when are you going to release Earthbound 3? In the infamous Robot Chicken E3 Direct. Yes, say what you will, but they were obviously okay. They were okay putting themselves out there to be a bit vulnerable for the sake of comedy, which I think is a really admirable quality. And it's something we love about Rare, especially. I mean, take a look at Grab by the Ghoulies.
Take a look at Nuts and Bolts.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was basically just a giant wake for the company as it existed back then. There was. No, I mean, Nintendo's never going to be as self-effacing as Rare, nor should it be. I mean, that's not in their culture or their persona. But yeah, you're definitely right. Like Iwata definitely contributed to that. Look, you can't deny the massive success of the Wii and the Nintendo DS. I mean that. I know
that those were really. I guess so. So when did Iwata take over as president of
2002?
Okay.
So of course that's a landmark year for what we discussed, because that's also the year Nintendo parted ways or with Rare. So I don't know if there's any correlation. I'm sure the relationship between the two was eroding long before Iwata took over. But
right.
So you can't really say, well, Iwata's the reason why.
Well,
this
I think it was sort of, that was just the timing. That's sort of when the arrangement with Rare was up, and so Rare had an option to pursue either Activision or Microsoft or Nintendo.
Nintendo did not choose to buy them.
It really wasn't so much like Iwata came in and said, we're getting rid of Rare, so much as that just coincided with the year in which Rare was up for optioning.
That's also apparently the year Iwata worked on his Donald Trump impression.
That was not my Trump.
We're getting rid of Rare. That was my Woody Allen, I guess.
Oh, it almost sounded like your Michael Kielbau Italian chef.
They're all the same.
There's only one impression in the world.
Just different degrees. So, like, I know as a Rare fan, as somebody who loves Rare, I'm sure I blamed Iwata partly on that in the past. And one of my main criticisms of Iwata's tenure is it seems like Nintendo has kind of reduced its role in the West. They've definitely, run away from third-party developers in both Japan and the West. They definitely kind of, I don't know.
Well, I don't know that that's true.
Retreated in their shells a little bit. I mean, besides Retro.
Well, but hey, back in the day, you could say besides Rare.
Yeah.
Rare was pretty much it. I'm sure there were a few, quote unquote second party developers that were not from Japan during that time, but Rare was the one that loomed large. But I think Retro Studios is now the one that looms large, and I don't think you can really say that they eschewed Western influence in a world in which Retro Studios has been pumping out headliner Nintendo games since 2001.
Yeah, even though
Metroid Prime.
Even though they should have all been Metroid. No, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, what can you attribute to Iwata's tenure, or what can you attribute to Nintendo's corporate culture in general? Because, we've complained about this so many times on the conversation, how they're focused on like online infrastructure and whatnot. There's still so much. They're still so focused on...
Well, their lack of focus, you mean?
Their lack of focus. They're still focused on local gameplay because that's
Sure.
the culture in Japan. And they're so worried about the island they're on, they forget they're a global company, a powerhouse.
Well, I really wonder, this NX thing also came with an agreement with a company called DNA, DENA. And from what we have from what we've been able to suss out, DNA is involved with online infrastructure, social networking, that kind of thing. So while Nintendo's own in-house attempts at that have fallen short, perhaps that might have been one of the last things that Iwata really spearheaded, was trying to make good by that and actually cater to a broader, more online savvy marketplace.
And time will definitely tell for that. See, this is why it's hard for me to. And plus, this episode is happening, a week and a half after his passing. So we've had time to process this news. So it's not going to be like. I think the emotion that I experienced when I heard it, I was shocked. Like I was just, it was completely gutted when it happened. And as were most gamers, it was just like my biggest thing with it was I like video games partly.
You don't say.
I said partly, as in I'm not done with this thought.
Okay.
I'm trying to be as eloquent as I can about a heavy subject.
As long as they have Donkey Kong in them.
Don't finish my thoughts. This was going to be really, really moving and special.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And you just shat all over it. I didn't give you a feces cookbook, Chad. I gave you a semen cookbook.
I'm sorry. Next time I want to interject, I'll do so with ejaculate.
That's all I ask.
Okay.
No, one of the reasons I like video games, and I had this realization the night we learned about his untimely death, is that I like video games because they keep this consistent link to childhood. These characters that we follow, they don't have any risk of prematurely dying. Like, I don't have to worry that Funky Kong is going to get cancer. You know, it's like Funky Kong's going to be around unless they decide that he passed away between entries. Like Wrinkly Kong. Yeah, but Wrinkly Kong's still hanging around as a ghost. Like, you know, I'm not going to be able to go to a door and have Iwata's spirit come out and talk to me and give me advice on how to, you know, I don't know, free the llama. But I like that about video games because these characters, they're eternal, you know, and I don't have to. They're always going to be a fixture as long as I live, and then you've got these mythic figures that arise from behind the scenes, like Miyamoto, Iwata, everybody at Rare for us. And then when they die, and suddenly you have to confront mortality in this hobby that's ultimately timeless and keeps you a kid at heart, that's not something you're used to dealing with.
It's just as depressing as seeing Robin Williams try and play Peter Pan as an adult.
I thought you were going to say as Robin Williams dying, which was also unfortunate.
Well, yeah, Hook was fairly unfortunate. Watch it again as an adult. It doesn't hold up.
I was going to say...
Your childhood memories are wrong.
I was like, I thought I liked Hook.
You did like it. It's on Netflix. Give it a spin.
I don't want to.
No, but
I don't want to.
But no, like, yeah, it's this... You do sort of get lulled... with any fictional work that's not Game of Thrones... you get
or Walking Dead.
Yeah, you get lulled into this sense of Neverland, you know, and then when the
my point is, like, in video games, like something like the X-Files, Duchovny and Anderson, they're aging. We're watching them get older.
Right.
With Donkey Kong, we don't have that problem. It's not like we can say, well, clearly, if you examine Donkey Kong Country Returns, he clearly has silver in his hair, which shows he's aging. Besides that, he doesn't age. He remains, you know, eternal.
Mm-hmm. And
so you kind of, this hobby more than any others, you get to avoid the ravages of time. You get to hide from it. You get to hide from it until it confronts you in the face, like it just did a week and a half ago.
And I think that perhaps that ultimate that stark juxtaposition is that much more staggering because of the fact that you really get to avoid it for all this time.
Especially in this age we live in, because had this happened 15, 20 years ago, and I read about Nintendo Power, I'd be like, oh, wow. But I wouldn't really be that familiar with Iwata beyond maybe seeing his picture once or twice in Nintendo Power or reading a single interview with him that was translated.
You know what?
In the era of streaming video, of YouTube, of a company communicating with us through such a more personable medium, this is going to hit a lot harder.
Well, it really crystallized for me when I went onto Miiverse and went to just on my Wii U Waru Waru Plaza a few hours after the news broke, and it was heartbreaking. Did you take a look at did you go into those communities at all?
I don't want to sound like a dick. I saw
a
lot
of
late
for that.
Okay then. No, I saw a lot of like genuinely moving artwork.
Yeah.
But after a while, like after a day, I got sick of seeing like pictures of like Nintendo characters crying or whatever. It was like, this doesn't say anything. I know people grieve in different ways, and for them, that's them generally expressing themselves and getting their emotion out through their art or whatever.
Yeah.
I understand
and
that.
that's what I'm seeing when I see those things, because yes, there were a lot of samey images, but that's because the emotions were just heart-wrenching and largely the same. And to me, I'm not looking at the fact that
that's what I'm saying. I don't want to critique that stuff because I come across as a dick, but my point was I got tired of seeing it because I don't need to see like Link with tears streaming down his face to know people are sad. And
no, to me, it speaks more to the depth of the individual's sadness that had no other way to express themselves than to spend quite a bit of time making this piece of artwork for Satoru Iwata, and so I'm reading between the lines, or I'm viewing between the lines when I see this. But this insurmountable outpouring of love and grief for this one man. It's the volume. It's not the specific imagery. It's the sheer the sense of communal sadness, which was kind of overwhelming.
Right. I mean, and like I said, you're being a bigger person about it than I am, because what I really liked seeing was the artwork that was more of a celebration of his life rather than here's things being sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like like there were a couple ones. I know M Dog on our forum posted some great ones. And some of them ones he reposted, he drew when Iwata was still alive, which is weird.
Like
weird to say,
Donkey
but
Kong with the banana bunch, or like the horde of bananas and Iwata with hearts in his eyes.
Yeah, I love that. But I think the favorite one I saw, I don't know who drew it, but it's Iwata is sitting on a cloud and he said, "Oh, they're all sad. Please understand." And then somebody says they do, and it's Gunpei Yokoi, and they start playing the Game Boy with the link cable.
That was a really nice one.
And so I mean, I'm not trying to be cynical about this. It's just. I everybody grieves in different ways, and that's not how I grieve. I grieve. I sometimes have gallows humor, and
sometimes, on occasion, on occasion, Hyle will spend extended periods of time talking about semen cookbooks.
But I also like to see more optimistic celebrations, and to know that his influence isn't over. That yes, we can be sad. Yes, we should be sad, but ultimately, Iwata is still very much going to be with us, because what he gave us will always be a part of this hobby, of this fandom, this these communities that have sprung up. It's going to suck him not being around. I don't know how to process. The next Nintendo Direct is going to be brutal, one way or another. I mean, just knowing that he won't be a part of it, and there's definitely going to be some sort of memorial aspect, I'm sure. Because they're going to have to bring it up. Honestly, it wouldn't even surprise me if they completely retooled the format of Nintendo Directs.
I would love, honestly, I feel like the show should go on. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and he would want it to go on. That's the thing.
Right.
There I go again, speaking for him. But
you were really close though.
I don't know. It's like I said, this is hard, because how does a comedy show about fucking monkeys eulogize a man we didn't always see eye to eye with? It's weird. And yet I'm genuinely sad about this, because I did really like him. It's just this weird paradox that death makes you confront, and I would rather just keep cracking jokes and, referencing him in pissy little ways.
Well, it's certainly uncomfortable, and it makes you. What I appreciate about what I appreciate about what his death has done to and for this community that we are sort of overseeing, this DK Vine, which sometimes can get very cynical, is that it's forced us to really examine the dichotomy between the person and their and sort of their what we perceive to be their guiding principles, philosophies, and actions. And it's definitely possible, which I think we've all discovered, to have an unspeakably massive respect for a person while still disagreeing with them professionally.
Which is really the kind of decorum that the human race needs to learn in times of non-mourning, where if we could take this lesson and apply it to our lives, that would be great.
Yeah.
But I don't have faith that I can do that. I don't have faith that the human race could do that.
But honestly, I mean, as much as I say it's been sort of it's been a silver lining, I would much rather us not be burdened by this cloud. If I never had to grow as a person and we could still have Satoru Iwata, done. That is not a price I want to pay. To be slightly more self-aware about myself. Like I want the man back. I fucking miss him. Yeah,
which is weird to say that, I miss him too, and it's weird to say because I've always wondered when celebrities die, like you get all. I always just viewed it as fake sincerity, like
but it's not celebrity though.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I would like somebody post a Facebook message. Oh, I would like to send the well wishes to the family of Christopher Lee. I'm like, who the fuck are you? You live in Iowa. How did you know Christopher Lee's family? Like, you just stop grandstanding. But that person,
that's not grandstanding.
But that's the thing. Like, that was my opinion before. But maybe to that person, Christopher Lee really meant something the same way Iwata means to our community, and they're having a visceral emotional reaction despite never meeting the man.
Yeah, I mean, I had this earlier in the year with Leonard Nimoy, whom I've never met, and it really hit me hard because as I talked about, like I had a very meaningful relationship with his works during a tough time in my life, and
by that you mean in search of.
That's right. Yeah, I was a huge fan of the Mokili Mbembe episode. That's a deep cut. Google that one, folks. Baby Secret of the Lost Legend. Horrible movie. No, I think that a lot of people, and to an extent us, had the same relationship with Satoru Iwata and his works. That they're a comforting element. They're always positive. There is never a cynical ounce of content in a Satoru Iwata game. Never, ever, ever. It's not there. These are positive experiences. They're challenging, but you grow from that. And there's always an underlying, genuinely beneficial message to be found. And there are some times when, hey, man, playing Pokemon Red Blue got me through a pretty tough time in my life.
Pokemon Red Blue gave me a tough time in my life trying to level up my Rattata.
Yeah, well, that's because you didn't evolve him to Raticate, which is what the game was trying to get you to do.
I told you, we already went through this.
I know.
I did both.
But no, it's like, in concert with a lot of the games that we usually fixate on, there were some Satoru Iwata staples that really meant a lot to me, and I know meant a lot to people out there. And that's the context in which people feel like they have a personal relationship with these quote unquote celebrities that they've never met.
Before this happened, when I had this reaction, when people would just, as I said, I believed it was fake sincerity. I knew I was a hypocrite because I know when eventually Paul McCartney dies for a second time, I'm going to be distraught. No, it's going to hit me hard. That's the one I'm dreading. Really, I'm probably dreading that more than members of my own family passing away. And I realize that makes me a hypocrite, but I think I can understand it in better context now that somebody so close to this world we inhabit, this stupid video game hobby, now that they've died, and again, it's something we kind of avoided in this hobby for very long, besides like star cases like Gunpei.
Yeah.
And, it's like, oh, God, we can't hide from death even here. And that's kind of sobering and frightening and sucks. It sucks.
It sucks, but I think that it has the potential to sort of have us look at video games in a more holistic way, to appreciate not only the content and the experience, but also what goes into creating these works.
Maybe people, maybe it's a good thing, because maybe it can lead to people to re-examine their reactions when a game is announced that they would rather it be something else.
Yeah.
Like this past E3 with the Metroid ball blasting Federation fighters, or whatever it's called. That insane reaction to it. And then Iwata passes away 2 weeks later, and suddenly that doesn't seem like such a big deal now. And the fact that Iwata was
death certainly has a trivializing effect on a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think back to like one of the last interviews Iwata gave after E3. He was apologizing for Nintendo's performance at E3, and I hate that that was one of the last things he had to contend with, was that negative reaction. I'm not trying to shame the fan base or anything. It's just I hope people move forward with a different perspective, that there's actual people slaving away behind these games. And
I honestly I want people to understand. I want them. It sounds twee and pithy, but I think
it's very twee, very pithy.
I want people to. I think people need to better understand that creative work in general comes from passion and tears and anguish and unbridled glee and joy and pain and suffering and basically the entire gamut of human emotion. And people who create works pour themselves into them. The ones that last, the ones that aren't cynical cash grabs. And Satoru Iwata was not a man who created cynical cash grabs. So
He ran from them, I think you can say. Look at his entire tenure as president of Nintendo. I don't see many cynical cash grabs in that.
No, it was that sometimes they stumbled into success and sometimes they stumbled into failure. But
you could say Smash Brothers for Wii U and Nintendo 3DS, considering Sakurai didn't even want to make them at first.
Yeah.
I'll grant you that.
Yeah,
one.
That's fair. But that's I think that people need to understand that when
it just sounds so.
It does.
Wrong.
It sounds too easy to say, but it's the best way that I can articulate that there is so much that goes into creative output that it's very easy, and I feel like online culture, especially like the immediacy of first reactions and social media has really driven people to make knee-jerk, unfair, reductive criticisms about things without really considering the toil and sometimes unavoidable compromise that comes from trying to do something at the level that Satoru Iwata was working. So
it's kind of like what we've come around to. Our whole philosophy this last year or so, stop being a cynical dick. There's so much joy in the world, and there's so much passion behind everything that these creators are trying to make for us. And yes, it's a business. Yes, they're trying to get our money, but it's not like they're just trying to shake us down like law enforcement at a traffic stop. They're actually giving us a product in return, and we can choose whether we want to buy it or not. But if you want to tear down everything, if you're not going to be happy with anything, then seriously, you're in the wrong hobby, because these games are made with love. Iwata loved this industry. He loved video games. There was that interview where he says, his father, basically disowned him at first when he said he wanted to get into video games, but he did it out of that pure passion for the medium. He was not a phony. He was not a man who was in this business but would rather be doing something else. He was living the life he wanted to live.
And no matter how high he rose in that business, he never viewed it as a business. Of course, the famous quote that it was really heartwarming to see that even at Rare, they had a tribute internally, like on their closed circuit televisions, that had this quote from Satoru Iwata where he says, "On my business card, I'm a corporate CEO or a corporate president." in my mind I'm a game developer, but in my heart I'm a gamer, and that's how he identified himself.
Yeah,
and that to me, like, it's it's strange to have the luxury of such a clear-cut self-identification, but
and the non-Trump luxury at that.
Right. But it's I think it really is something that we should bear in mind when considering not only Satoru Iwata's legacy, but the legacy of those that have worked with him throughout the years. That's not, that sort of ideal doesn't happen in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. There are like-minded weirdos all around Satoru Iwata that share that same passion. And
which can I just say, which is why Nintendo is going to be okay.
Yeah.
I see a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of panicking online where people are saying, well, this is it for Nintendo. The shareholders are going to get their wishes. They're going to completely gut the company. And I'm like, you do realize the shareholders always voted to keep Iwata in place, right? Like by an overwhelming majority.
Yeah,
so,
even when Nintendo was hemorrhaging money, I think the lowest he ever dipped was in the 70s for as an approval rating.
The high 70s.
Yeah.
So don't think that like Nintendo's going to be okay. And I see people like saying, well, who should the next president be? And they're going with names they know because, of course, that's the way the internet operates. You know,
sure.
I think Miyamoto should be the president. I think Sakurai should be the president.
I think Nathan Fillion should be every Marvel superhero.
Or I think he should be Batman, Chad. I think he'd be a great Batman.
Right.
Because he's a name I know.
I think Nathan Fillion would be a great Malcolm Reynolds, but that's just me.
Nathan Fillion is a name I know, and I'm a nerd who doesn't who doesn't expose himself to any other medium besides sci-fi.
But in fairness, there's difficulty in knowing more Nintendo personalities than that. Not just because of the
I realize
barrier.
that, but I think we can just safely say we don't know who the next Nintendo president will be, but I'm sure they're going to come from the same culture that cultivated Iwata. And it's going to be somebody the shareholders, Miyamoto, everybody there is going to approve of.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be... I realize it's the devil you know, and I'm not saying Iwata was a devil, but we're definitely comfortable with what, came before, and what comes next is scary and unknown. And yeah. Then we have a completely unknown entity running Nintendo, and who knows what decisions will be made. But I think Iwata has done a lot... especially when he got sick, to secure not his legacy, but the legacy of Nintendo would be in good hands after his passing.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to, when the shareholders have this vote, when it's all sorted out, Nintendo's going to be okay, and they're going to do right by the legacy of Satoru Iwata. So this is not the time to worry about that.
Yeah. I agree.
Off the soapbox, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Wait, what?
I was on a soapbox just now.
Fair enough.
I was trying to change a light when I was saying all that.
Okay, all right. Did you get it in there? Did you slightly electrocute yourself and stroke out for a moment?
I broke the light bulb in my hand and I'm bleeding everywhere. But I have enough blood left in me to finish this episode. So let's.
Well, I think we're sort of wrapping up our thoughts. It's difficult. It sort of seems like stream of consciousness, verbal vomit, but.
Well, that's what you do. I mean, Chad, at your funeral, or
you're outliving me now.
I assume, but not by much. I think
I say as I'm coughing up a lung here.
I know. Right, this is why I've come to this conclusion. But it's going to be a stream of consciousness eulogy at your funeral. Don't worry, it's not going to have any coherence, and it's going to be a conversation episode too.
I would just ask that, like my wedding toast, you make it Diddy Kong Racing themed.
I definitely will. And I would like our. I know I said I don't like the artwork of characters crying, but I fully expect tributes when one of us dies.
Okay, turn the spotlight off of us. This is about Satoru Iwata.
I want Fiddlesworth done fiddling. Stream of tears. No. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like he's really gone, and that's the weird thing. Like, that's why I'm dreading the next Nintendo Direct, because I won't really get to face it again until the time comes when I have to face it. For now, it's never knowing the man, not only having him interject in my life every few months. I can kind of keep the delusion that he's still with us. And like I said, to some extent, he's always going to be with us because he gave us so much, and his presence is always going to loom large over Nintendo and what we discuss. So I can take some comfort in that, you know. As a fan, at least, I can take comfort. I can't imagine what, you know, his family and close friends are going through right now. But
yeah, that's another part. Like I mean, we've talked about the kind of the larger fan reaction, and Lee Loveday actually had a really poignant tweet about this. He said, "When's the last time you saw so much sadness caused by the death of a big corporate executive?" Exactly. That's a real legacy.
Yeah.
Which I think that sums up the larger fan reaction.
Probably Steve Jobs would be the only close example.
Sure, but even Steve Jobs had almost as many detractors, and whereas Iwata had none.
Well, you saw that Ashton Kutcher movie. He was played by Ashton Kutcher, for Christ's sake.
I did not actually see that Ashton Kutcher movie. No, I'm holding out for the Tommy Shalami joint. Will Tommy Shalami be doing the Jobs one?
I don't know.
Probably. No, I think it's a David Fincher thing. Anyway, that often... we often forget when we think about that scale of his friends and family. And I think that's also something that we need to bear in mind is there's a certain decorum to the people. I mean, yes, we all did have these close personal sort of at arm's length relationships with him and his works, but there are people who did have actual tangible personal relationships with the man. And
right, I am mourning like the figure that he was, the almost totem in our fandom.
Yeah.
Right. But there was actually a flesh and blood man behind that, and there are people who are deeply going to miss that man that we'll never know.
And isn't that an insane concept that the symbol and the man can kind of that they sort of are, or at least the symbol was derived from an actual human being? Like, that's not a Iwata was not created by a marketing department. Satoru Iwata is just a dude, you know?
Wasn't that the whole moral of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight movies?
That's right, yeah. Maybe one day we'll see him at a French cafe.
Oh no!
I think it is absolutely, it's almost unfathomable to process that this larger than life person was actually a man. You know, that's incredible to me, and someone who has such an inexhaustible well of childlike enthusiasm. That is, and by every account, that was genuinely who he was as a person.
Well, and that's what I want to take away from this, and that look how he lived, by all accounts, lived his life,
right. And
that he kept that sense of childlike enthusiasm and that outlook up until, you know, final days of his life. And I think we would all be so lucky if we could do that, because I really do believe that it's the key to being a better person, and to there's just so much negativity in the world, and if we could just live by that example, I just some of us, if it's just like 2% of us could adopt that, think of how much better this world would be.
Right. I really hope that his passing, as extraordinarily unprecedented and unfortunate as it is, I hope that it results in us all trying to live more by his example. Do
we end on a fart joke here? Or?
I just want to. I'll appropriate the fucking hashtag. Thank you, Iwata.
Hashtag thank you, Iwata.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.
Never could be any other way.